If I mention the name Dan Corder, you probably wouldn't even know who I'm talking about. But if I said to you, the white guy who's always talking about politics and it's very fine and he's got 3 beanies that I cannot explain, you definitely know who I'm talking about. That's our guest for this episode, and I can't wait to hear what his thoughts are on being on this platform and what this platform has done for his career.
Hey, my name is Dan Corder. I talk about the world and I add jokes. I've probably both impressed and upset both of your parents multiple times in the last year and a half. And on TikTok, I take South Africa's news, I figure out the big story there, figure out what really matters, the news worth knowing, and then I tell it to you as a young person because, yes, I am a young person. And you may not think so because you're on TikTok and I'm 31, but I'm still not old enough to join the ANC Youth League. And I think that that counts as a young person.
How you doing, my brother?
I'm so happy to be here. Phil, you are... I feel like I'm being interviewed by the celebrity interviewer.
Oh,
this
my
is the
God.
closest I'm ever going to get to Oprah in this country. Because Nolene has left us for a long time now, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with you.
Listen, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support because, I remember when I first met you at the TikTok event, you were very, very, very gracious and you were very like, dude, I'm so happy to meet you. I'm like, I'm so happy to meet you too. Let's even start there. Why? You had a stellar career prior to going onto the internet. Why the internet? Why you could have just stayed in mainstream media and your very guaranteed salary and lived your beautiful life? Why decide to come into this side of the lane?
So when I was 21 I got my first professional radio gig. My parents were upset because they're academics, but then they saw my paycheck and they were like, you go boy. And so then I was at Good Hope FM for 6 years in Cape Town. Then I got what for me and my community is like a call up to the Springboks. I became 5FM's breakfast host, and after 2 years of that, which meant at that point 8 years of being on the radio, I suddenly realized that my great obsessions, late night TV and the news, I was not scratching that itch through commercial radio. And so I just went on TikTok and started talking about the news in my own style, with a joke here, with some emotion there, and with all the passion and knowledge that I have. And the community response was phenomenal, and then genuinely changed my life. As you said, I'm no longer on 5FM. I now have a TV show. I have all of this kind of following and presence and reputation across South Africa, and it's literally because I went on TikTok.
You coming from radio where you had an hour, 2 hours to entertain people and get whatever it is message, whether it was entertainment or fluff or whatever, but at the end of the day, you were trying to connect to an audience, and you had an hour or two to do that. That transition, was it hard for you or you just came through easily?
No, it was easy because I was at a radio station appealing to young people already, and the mentality was you have 10 seconds to hold their attention, and then every 10 seconds they might tune out again. And the other mentality, because I was doing the breakfast shows, people are commuting, so the average listener might give you 7 minutes. And so I was already so deeply trained in how to move fast, how to look at a story and go, what's the headline, what's the emotion, what's the joke I could put in, and then how can I flesh out the full context that I want people to know? Because I think a lot of people watch my TikToks for my opinions. My political positions are very clear, as many politicians have complained about, but also because a lot of South Africans find South Africa to be an overwhelming place. There's too much news. As I constantly say, South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. The problem is this movie is so chaotic and crazy that you need someone who is unhealthily obsessed with the news to go, cut out the noise, cut out the fluff. This is what you need to know. And that was the art form I developed on radio. And then so putting it on TikTok was quite easy. And then once the audience trusted that they wanted to hear me out, I was posting 5-minute videos. I was posting 6-minute videos.
Now that you're on television and you are on platforms like TikTok, and you're not only just on TikTok, I think you are on YouTube as well, right? Now that you are on 2 millions right now of content, do you feel like that influences how you curate your content, or is it just same content but with just different length?
No, so I am a workaholic and I work way too hard. I make 11 shows a week because what I also do 5 podcasts a week. I also make so much material in different formats, and I don't anymore think this kind of content fits this format best. Instead, I think, because what you were saying about when the fame leaves, or like you're no longer flavor of the month, how will you keep your audience? And you said consistency, and consistency has to come from authenticity. It has to come from a true place of I'm brave enough to be myself on the internet, whether they like me or not, because then the people who like me and support me, I'm always going to be able to give them what they want because it's me. It's 100% me, and it's how I feel. That's the reason why people who have a certain political persuasion love me one week and don't like me the next.
Right.
What I'm trying to build out for them is an understanding that I'm not looking for your approval and I'm not fighting for a political agenda. And hopefully when you like some of my stuff and don't like others, what you realize is that's really what I think.
Yeah.
That's really what Dan thinks, and that creates credibility and trust.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to how I put news stories in different formats, it's really just when in the week the news comes out. Because I got a TV show on a Monday, I got a ride on a Sunday, I got a podcast 5 nights a week, I've got 2 YouTubes to make in the middle of the week. Like, it's very process orderly in my lifestyle of when I'm recording shows, and how the news stories grow in the week really governs which show they end up on.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I make my material. Firstly, I do look like this, but I only put it on for the video itself. Basically, I'm completely obsessed with the news, and specifically reading the news. The reason why is because reading is the fastest way still to absorb information. It may not be as interesting as a video or a podcast, but it is still the best way. So every single morning, I wake up and I read for 2 hours of my own interest, breaking news and world's news. And then I put it into a folder which is called Potential Stories, because I recognize the fact that for my creative process, it doesn't happen at 7 a.m. when I'm reading about Donald Trump, the evil knickknack, doing something ludicrous. It happens later when I'm preparing for the TV show or making a TikTok. So I put it in Potential Stories, and then I come back to it when I'm actually going through a creative process. For a TikTok specifically, when I want to do a news story, I go back to those Potential Stories, I go into the folder, and I click on a story and I read it. And then I think, okay, this story has been written about in this way, from this angle, by this journalist, and I need many more sides to this story. So then I'll read 6 or 7 versions of the same story reported by different groups.
So let's bring it back to the platform, TikTok. What is the one feature of TikTok that, if you had to kind of like, tell somebody about TikTok who don't know anything about TikTok, and you're like, that app, there's this one feature that made me want to be on that app, or that makes me be happy to be on that app that I can't find anywhere else for you?
So, I mean, the algorithm is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, the algorithm has the ability to show you things that you did not know that you liked, or things about yourself you did not understand. And it allows someone like me, who's so knowledge hungry and kind of like niche obsessed, to really go and find out about the magical parts of the world, and particularly for somebody like me who's very creative, to go and discover whole kinds of creative scenes that I didn't know I knew. I was telling someone earlier that TikTok showed me that I love, and this is so niche, puppet comedians.
Okay.
So not ventriloquists. You're not seeing the human.
Yes.
The human is under the desk, and
Yeah.
all you see is the puppet.
Oh.
And the puppet is being so funny. And what I'm obsessed with is 2 things. Firstly, so much of physical comedy, comedy is about physical comedy,
yes,
right? So the genius of a puppet comedian who can create physical comedy out of just a puppet, it's like the craft to be able to do that is extraordinary. And the second thing is, these puppet comedians who are running a puppet and they're under the desk, they can't see the crowd, but they're doing crowd work just as good as a real stand-up. The talent, skill, and craft to do that, unreal.
It's not my job to read some journalist's work. It's my job to tell the more comprehensive, fleshed out, contextualized story so that you can truly understand what I'm doing. So what I then do is I go and reread those articles and take key screenshots from those articles, because remember, when I go into TikTok, I'm going to be green screening. I'm going to be talking back to the story itself, highlighting key quotes that are really important to hear from the word of mouth of the person who said those things, showing you key pictures maybe that flesh out and give you the visual aid of the story that I'm talking about. So I read through those 7 articles again. I go, okay, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. Screen grab that quote, grab that picture. Think about, as I move through the video, how I'm going to be keeping the viewer eye stimulated, side stimulated as I talk about the story. And then I think, how long is this video going to be? Is this a shock, horror, or a big emotion, funny video that's only 45 seconds? Is it a minute and a half? Does it need to be 10 minutes because I'm really going to unpack something? And then the wonderful thing about TikTok, as independent from any other creator studio that I've used, and the reason why I only use TikTok Creator Studio, is because TikTok gave me the blessing that is green screen. Green screen allows you to put up a picture or a video behind yourself and interact with it as you're going. Create a reaction video or interact with some kind of visual that proves that I've done my research, know what I'm talking about, and I'm telling you verified news.
If I get to the point where I can be making enough money and getting enough funding to create the best show I ever dream of making, and that's all I do every week, and then I can still afford life and live the life that I want, then that'll be making.
Yeah, that'll be success for you.
Because for me, the guiding kind of like motto that I have for my life is, I intend to be brilliant. So I'm not brilliant yet. I'm not even close to brilliant. I have moments of brilliance. I intend to be brilliant. And my whole creative journey is about getting to the point where I can be brilliant. That will be success when I get there.
Sure, you are deep, bruh. Yeah. Well, just to wrap this up, I mean, let's talk about the reality of, being a content creator. Part of the conversation that comes up a lot is about monetization within our territory. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that if you want to make money, you need to at least have some awareness of the kinds of brands who might want to work with you and then spend time with them. When there are brands that come along that are clean and make sense for me, hop on them.
If you want to make money as a content creator, all you have to do is just to make sure that you create content that is sustainable. And sustainability comes with consistency and not chasing the numbers, but chasing credibility, as I said. Dan, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next week.
What the hell is up with these? I'll tell you what is up with these. Nothing. There's no deeper story. There's nothing magical or mystical. The one day I was growing my hair out when I was on a radio station, and I was like, I'm not going to get a haircut until we get a week without load shedding. And after 6 months, I looked homeless and living on a mountain. And so I put on a beanie for a TikTok video, covered my hair, and then realized that I could turn that into a thing. So then these are just 3 beanies I found in my house. There is no greater kind of lore around it. And I started wearing them because I realized it's another performance visual aid.